Welcome to the channel, viewers. Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, just waiting for a storm to pass before I head out, possibly for a wing. One of the things that's troubled me of late, relative to my experience, is the fact that you can love someone and try and do all the right things for that person, only to be confronted with situations that they've created for themselves before you come along, that you try and respect, but they work against you. And this is completely out of your control usually, and in some ways can be out of their control as well. When it comes to relationships, intimate ones, your intimate relationship, I can't understand for the life of me why the privacy of that relationship is allowed to be violated, particularly by children and things like that that aren't a part, you can hear the storm in the background, a part of the deep, consequential part of the relationship. When there's triangulation, and triangulation can usually be aimed at an affair, and that's an immediate dismissal anyway. You don't stay in a relationship like that anyway. But when you're dealing with triangulation, enmeshments, triangulation, with family members, you're dealing with such complexity and depth that, from my experience, as soon as you see this, as soon as you see enmeshment in the family members, be it parent and children, or the niece and the uncle, or whatever it is, probably best for you to get out, because it's an unsolvable problem from your point. If the problem was going to be solved, excuse me, I think it probably would have been solved before you come along. A lot of people enjoy the enmeshment. They get certain kicks out of it, certain elements of identity and security. And enmeshments usually have no boundaries. They'll feign boundaries when somebody's there that might be able to spot the over-connection between the people. But the problem with it is, the longer you hang around with enmeshed people, the more that they're going to turn against you, because you're partaking in a supply of the person that you're with, that the enmeshed family member was given possession of. And you can't, and you shouldn't have to compete with people for that part in an intimate relationship with someone that you're with. Family members will compete with you if it's relative to supply, because it's an addiction. It's, for some, a way of life. It's a formation. It's the way people have been formed. And when you have a formation and it's now being fractured by a love outside of the shared fantasy between the two people in the enmeshment, the two DNA people in the enmeshment, then that takes away the idealization these two people have between each other. Now, the person that gets a partner, a stranger, outside the enmeshment arrangement, the covert emotional incestual arrangement, will try and justify themselves by not perceiving how the other person feels. Now, the partner, say myself, I'll look at it and I'll go, right, covert emotional incest, this, and this is going to happen. And as you watch it play out, as you watch it unfold, you'll see the person that you're with. Tremendous thunder going on here, Australia, East Coast of Australia. You'll see the person that you're with begin to struggle within themselves because in many ways they've enabled the psychological position and condition this person's in by way of the relationship she's formed with the DNA family member. The conflict that this person's going to have is, particularly if they like you and they realise that there's potential for you to have a good relationship with them, which is unusual. This might happen only once or twice in their lifetime, if they're lucky. They have to try and work out how they're going to manage the conflict within the family member and the supply that's going to take away from the relationship they're trying to have with you. Your awareness of the void being caused in the intimate relationship because of the conflict going on with the family member and the emotional supply that's going to tax from the relationship. And they're going to try and keep harmony, but it's not going to happen because the one that's having the psychological meltdown, which in some instances can be the new partner confronting the issue, like this just is not acceptable, this is just not how normal relationships go, you're too close to so-and-so and so-and-so, and I don't feel comfortable with it, or whatever the case might be. Tremendous lightning just then. That's going to make the person that you're with have to confront how they really feel about you, the impact that the enmeshment is having on you, and are they willing to cause trauma in the person, that the DNA person that's objecting to the emotional supply that's going into you and away from them. And for a lot of these people, they'll try and numb it through substance abuse and medications. But that only seems, from my experience, to make them go deeper into unresolved, which means the people around them that need their boundaries, need the person's boundaries to be put in place. And if nothing is getting put in place, then there's a sense of betrayal and unbelief that will come from the partner. And there's a sense of betrayal and unbelief that will come from the family member, because if the person that you're with continues to see you against the objections of the family member, usually the grandiose child or the golden child or one of these, that's going to put this person in such a place of responsibility and accountability that if they don't meet a fair resolve, the unresolved will cause them to triangulate away from the DNA person and away from the person that they're currently in the relationship with that has identified the enmeshment. Because the person identifying the enmeshment now has become part of a bigger problem. And that bigger problem is the conflict that their presence is causing in the family member, which is usually an adult child or something of this nature. And now you'll begin to start to sense that something just ain't right. Why is this person still turning up physically but emotionally less present? You'll see it starting to diminish. You won't be told about things that you're usually told about, and it all becomes very zombie-like. This then indicates, if you've got any sense about you, that there could be somebody altogether outside of the family and the relationship that this person's communicating with. And I don't just mean a friend or somebody like that. I mean some kind of emotional affair or outreach of that nature. And believe it or not, women and men will prey on these kind of situations because it's opportunity. People are opportunists. They really don't have much consideration for or value for relationships. That's why they're single usually. And if you're with a person that can't resolve, then this is usually it's how it's going to end up. It's going to end up in a bigger mess. If they can't resolve the simplicity of the conflicts, and there's some lightning that's going to be loud, the simplicity of the conflicts between themselves and their family member and their partner, they will probably eventually go outside of the relationship with the partner, massive thunder, and the relationship with the family member, and find a sense of resolve, which is really not resolve, it's escape, with somebody else. Unresolved, even in its most micro-incremental forms, is the first sign that danger is approaching, because the person's unable to, in a mature way, regulate the situation in such a way as peace and harmony are going to pursue. They just don't seem to be able to do it. So what do? For me, when I tried to battle it out, I wanted to see if there was a possibility for the relationship to work. It was working in every other aspect except for some disgruntled family members that were very rude. I've seen this in several instances, not just one. Real vicious, rude, nasty, immature people. And in the end, I had to forfeit the relationships, not because we were fighting or anything like that, just because psychologically it was just not healthy to be in a relationship with somebody that can't identify you for who you are and stand up for that with their family members. I found that to be belittling, demoralizing. I felt like these women were just trying to get me to accept disorder. And you become sick, you become mentally ill, physically ill, you don't function right, you can have accidents, you turn to substances and things, and that's why unresolved is so bad. Really bad.